download, I downloaded it.
Sure.
I really like it. Like, there's flaws, but it's in general. I thought I had problems with the pacing. I didn't. It was a lot of fun. I still really love the spoiler when Thor meets the Guardians of the Galaxy. That entire bit, I just find fucking great. So it was it was a nice thing that I was like, I'm gonna watch this because I have work to do and I can put it on the background, and just like really enjoyed it as a movie. I think more than the first time I saw it, which was awesome. Also, in random geekdom, I got in a debate about the next Star Wars movie with somebody on Saturday night who didn't believe me. I was like, no, Carrie Fisher's going to be in it. He's like, no, she's not. No, she's not. I'm like, no, they announced. He's like, how? They're not doing the CGI thing. I was like, I know, they're using archival footage, but she's going to be in it. Oh my God. I had to like show him the phone and be like, there's the article. And he was like,
this was a face-to-face argument?
It was a face-to-face argument. And he's like,
oh my God.
That just says maybe they're going to be in it.
I didn't know those happened anymore.
They do. He was
I thought people just like turned their back to you and started like bad-mouthing you on Facebook.
Well, yeah, that probably happened afterwards, but I gave him bread, so I don't think it did. And it's not who you think it is either.
I had no idea. I assumed it was the student or something.
No.
I thought that's why you were like refraining from using.
No, it's a friend of a friend of ours.
Okay.
But he had a few drinks. But I was like, here's the fucking article where they say she's going to be in it. There's the permission from her daughter.
Wow. Okay.
Listen, people feel really strongly about that shit.
Yeah, apparently.
That was my transition.
Death threats to like the Asian girl because she's
I know.
Asian.
That sucks. And she had to get off Twitter.
Yeah.
That sucked.
The world sucks. You want to get started?
Sure.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Two Dumb Dads. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And this is episode 31 for August 8th. We're talking about something fun today. We're talking a little bit about how we tend to like encourage our kids to be bigger than maybe they are. But before we dive into it, I want to get out the word about the podcast and kind of ask you to be a part of it for us. So obviously, if you're listening to this now, hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, you probably also know that we've had a little bit of audio issues in the past. So we were trying to kind of holding off doing this until now. But we would really appreciate it if you could share and like and subscribe to things. And I don't know, I feel like there's supposed to be a review in this statement somewhere.
I think you can like and review on any of the ways you get your podcast, but especially iTunes. Liking and reviewing on iTunes really is a huge help to us. I know you hear everybody say it, but if you do listen via iTunes, definitely like it and leave us a review. It helps a lot in how we shape the show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really helpful and it's really beneficial. Although I do have to correct you on something. I don't think you can subscribe to our website. You can keep visiting it, and I encourage you to, but I don't think there's a subscribe button on our website. But you can
subscribe to iTunes.
You can subscribe to iTunes, and I think there's a heart button on our website. I don't know what the heart does.
You liked it.
Is that literally all it is?
I think
it's like a website like?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Give us a heart on the website too. It's just it doesn't really do anything, but God, it makes me feel good. Somebody gives me their heart.
It makes Chris's work all worthwhile.
And I was like, oh wow, I spent days and weeks and months trying to figure out how to pay Squarespace to do something for me.
But then they did it.
And now I have a heart.
True. Also, we have the Facebook group, so definitely engage there too, because we like hearing from you.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to hear some ideas for episodes and all that good stuff too.
Truth.
There. But anyway, with that in mind, let's dive into what's been going on for us, some adventures in dadding. You got anything for us, Nick?
Yeah, so actually it was kind of fun. So on Saturday, we went to a friend of ours hosted like a get together with some other friends who have kids. So
wait, is this the friend that doesn't believe in Carrie Fisher?
He was one of the people that was there.
Okay.
Okay. With their little one. So it was kids varying age. There was Miles, who's a little over 1.5, moving on too soon. There was a 2 or 3 year old. There was like a 4-year-old, and then there was a little like 8-month-old who's awesome. And so that's the parent who got the Carrie Fisher debate with me.
Well, I mean, his kid's only 8. Why would he believe in anything?
It's true. So it was really cool to hang out with a bunch of parents, but just be around a bunch of kids, right?
Sure.
Oh, and there was one other kid who's over 2.
Okay, cool.
So lots of kids.
Too old. If you're at over 2, you're just like just
old.
retire.
You're an old man now. So where I'm going with this is, so they're all playing and interacting at their different stages, right?
Sure.
And so Miles is kind of interacting and playing with stuff, but so it was the first time that. So Miles was near the littlest one, who's kind of standing up and playing with something, and Miles took something from him.
Oh, snap.
And so, yeah, right. And so I was like, oh, wait, no, Miles, no, you gotta give it back. He's playing with it, doing the thing you're supposed to do. But I
Sure.
realized, like, where I'm good with my adventures in dadding is my reaction time for that needs to really get quicker. Because I had this moment of just like, I froze. I was like, in my mind, I'm going, wait, you can't do that. And
That's
then
not okay.
And
no,
then
he'll fix it. He'll fix it.
And then it was like the slow-mo and fine. Then I had to take it. And then, he kind of pitched a little fit, which I expected to happen, which is totally fine. And then he got over it and he played with something different. But it was just like, I came to that realization that as Miles gets older, as he's not the baby anymore, right? That you as a parent have to be the one that like relinquishes the toy from your kid to someone else. And if you're not doing that a lot, because I mean, I'm not at daycare, right? I'm not in the environment where that's happening most of the time.
Sure.
I had to like, it was just, I have to readjust my brain to be like, oh yeah, so Miles has to learn that he's the bigger kid, right? What you do with that and being quicker about that or being aware of it more. So that was kind of like a dad open eye of like, oh yeah, we're at this phase now. Like this is now a real thing.
Yeah, like that's a screwed up thing because I have the same issue, but maybe even worse, where like Thea will take a toy from somebody and there's a part of me who's cheering her on like, yeah, now you should hit him with it. Hit him with it. It's just a ball. Hit him with it.
It'll start happening.
I know.
Yeah.
And like, it's not that I don't realize at some point it's like, oh no, this is bad. I should stop her. I should correct her. But I'm all like, my first thought is like, no, she's still really tiny. And so she's of course she doesn't know she's not supposed to steal yet. And it's like, no, this is how you learn. So you have to do it. And she's old enough. And
they're only kids. So when they're home, everything that's there is theirs. I think it also, the part of this effect is when we are usually around other kids, which is the two of them, your wife is really good about catching that because she's a teacher. So she's catching it.
She always makes me look bad.
But she's watching for it. She's literally watching for it.
I mean, she's also one of their teachers, right? So when she says it, it's like, Miss Erin is...
Right. And so I think like just training to watch for that type of thing is they become no longer the littlest kids in the room. But it was definitely just like a dad. It was almost like, oh yeah, you're getting to the disciplinary part of father, which also I guess is one other part of this is I actually had to yell is the word I would use, but raise my voice to Miles the other day. So I was making something. I was in the kitchen, I was baking something. And I hear Sarah being like, Miles, no. Like, and it kept escalating. So I was like, what is going on? So I like stopped. I went in. He was taking a toy because he's been throwing his toys a lot. We're trying to get him to stop.
Yeah, he was doing that here too.
Yeah, we're trying to get him to stop because we don't like you can throw balls, but we don't want him to throw.
Yeah, I think he just got upset and was just like,
yeah,
oh,
and
you
that's
don't want I'm going to throw this toy.
And we're trying hard to break that.
Sure.
So what he was doing this time was he was taking a toy and he was going to go hit my Xbox controller with it. And Sarah was yelling at him to stop and he wasn't. So finally I went in and I was like, what's happening? I saw him do it and I was just like, Miles Edward Westermeyer. No, and he like froze.
You bust out the middle name?
I did.
Oh, and you bust out the middle name.
But here's the best part. So it had the effect like he froze and he looked at me and he had the sad eyes and it's like, oh, now I feel bad, but you can't do that. And then no, but this is the best part. I was like, you jerk.
Wait, you called him a jerk?
No. Yeah, I did in my head. Because he looked at me and he just like, I wish I could videotape this. He like crossed his arm, looked at me a sad eye, and then he smiles at me, picks the thing up and throws it. And I was like,
oh man.
Then he had a timeout.
That's a good move.
I know, but I was like, first he made me feel bad. Then he just retaliated. So we have entered the terrible twos, pretty terrible twos.
Yeah.
So that's my adventure in dadding, making Miles share and terrible two entrance.
Oh, see, I actually had a completely different direction I was going to go with mine, but now that you're saying this, I feel like I have to kind of like continue on with this terrible twos thing.
Oh, I heard some of this from your wife, but continue.
I don't even know because I don't even know what I'm going to talk about yet. So Thea has, oh God, I could go one of two ways. I'm going to go with the bad one. Cause that's parent, cause you always scold me for saying too much positive about my kids.
Yeah,
so I'm going to say something negative.
Because parents want to hear the shit you're going through so they can relate.
Well, my kid actually, passed the ACTs yesterday. Yeah. She did really well. She's going to Harvard. So Thea has been doing this thing. No, shoot. I think I already talked about this. Did I already talk about Daddy No?
No.
I haven't talked about Daddy No.
No.
Okay, good. So Thea has started telling us like mommy, daddy, no for just about everything. And it's like, it's really cute for the record. Like it's adorable.
And then it gets annoying because we've been in that process for a while.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. She's been doing this for a long time. I just don't think I've actually brought this up before.
Yeah.
But so like, we'll just be sitting on the couch and like my wife and I will be, you know, whatever. And she'll be, like playing on the couch or on the floor or whatever with a toy, and like my wife and I will snuggle up next to each other. Like I'll lay my hand on my wife's leg or something, just like slightly touching her, and she'll look over and go, "Daddy, no, Daddy, no." And then she'll walk over and she'll take my hand off of her leg. She will climb up onto the couch and she will sit in my wife's lap until like I move to the other end of the couch or something.
Your daughter's basically a stalker.
She's like a fascist dictator, really, is what this is.
But only for your wife.
Only for my wife. Like my wife can do whatever she wants to. Like whatever. It doesn't matter who's touching daddy or daddy. Go jump off the roof. I really don't care. Daddy, but don't you dare touch mommy when I'm around, because I want that's my mommy. I don't get me wrong. She does this for other stuff too. Like if we're touching her, I don't know, her plate or whatever, like she just wants to have things her way, and she will not accept it when it's not.
Sounds about like Terrible Twos.
I mean, it's
or the transition into it.
Like it's not that bad. Like it's not like she's like throwing a temper tantrum when she doesn't get her way.
See, I've been hearing that she has been doing that.
I mean, again, I think my definition of temper tantrum is more extreme than yours. Like the other day she did like break down, like just like sobbing because I don't even remember what I did. I think I just said like, no, you can't jump off the couch head first or something. And she just like suddenly started like wailing or whatever.
I mean, that's a tantrum, dude.
Oh no, that was totally a tantrum. But like normally it's like, okay, so I'm just going to sit here and I don't know, like I'm going to put your fork on your plate instead of on the chair. And she'll go, Daddy, no. Daddy, no. And then I'll do it like, no, it has to be on the plate. Like, no. Like, all right, whatever. It's going to be on this plate. You can deal with it. And then she'll just smile like, no, Daddy, no. Daddy, no. It's really cute. It's adorable. It's also kind of annoying because I'm like, no, like, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter in the least. I'm just trying to make sure like we don't get more ants in our apartment.
True.
Because we have ants. I just don't want more ants.
Oh, there's a whole army in your apartment.
Oh, I know.
In the walls.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're going to like fall onto my head while we're recording.
And then eat you.
Yes, but it's okay. I taste really bad.
Are you sure?
I should probably taste like a mixture of garlic and fart.
That sounds like ant food to me. Daddy, no. Daddy, no.
Daddy, no.
Daddy,
Stop
no.
it. Stop it.
Stop it.
This week, diving into our main topic for the week, this week we're talking a little bit about like telling your kids that they're big. And this is something that I think you kind of brought up that you wanted to talk about. So I don't know, what made you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
week?
So, I've been noticing lately, like with my wife and I, and also your wife, because we're around you guys, you and your wife, and just people with their kids who are our age in general, like at the park, always using the like, all right, now we'll act like a big girl or a big boy, or we'll do this like a big boy or a big girl, and always using the like, do this like the older kid does. And I understand why, I get it, but I think it's kind of, I really think it might be kind of detrimental, and it really started bothering me. So this is the thing. I should put a caveat on this before we even like really dive in, right?
Okay.
I understand that, and you know me, this is one of my big fears. Like I'm constantly tracking developmental bullshit because it scares me. Even now, I still track it, and I understand like there are developmental milestones that our kids should and need to hit, and those are important, and that's part of them growing up, and I'm totally cool with that.
Okay.
What I mean, though, is when you're like, okay, so trying to think like an example that I heard. All right, so we're going to hand this to someone like a big kid, or we're going to go do this thing like the big kids do. Listen, I did it with the swings, right? Like we just wanted our kid to swing. So we're like, we'll swing like the big kids. So I was using something that I know will eventually work to try to get them to do something that ultimately I wanted them to do. And I think that's my problem with this. I wonder how often this, like the big kids thing, is less about them reaching developmental stuff and more us or me pushing them because I just want them to do something because it's more convenient for me. Like, I really want my kid to potty train. You know why? It's more convenient for me. Yes, it's development, but like I want it now. Well, the big kids are doing it. Like a big kid, you use the potty because it will help my convenience. And I wonder if that... Well, I have two things that I'm wondering about, and I'm interested to see what you...
So what are you wondering? Like, what do you think is the problem here?
Well, so it's two things. I think for me is I feel like we're pushing... It's the idea you're constantly pushing your kid to be older and not allowing them to just kind of be a kid for a little bit.
Okay.
And I think it is okay for a toddler to be a fucking toddler and understand like there are things they just can't do, won't enjoy, and can't enjoy that I'm going to push them to do because I want to. And that's... it bothers me. The other thing too is I'm not sure exactly what you mean by like, it's okay to be a toddler. Because what is a toddler to you? I mean, a little kid. I mean, I don't know. It's like there are some things like Miles just can't like. I didn't push him to like, okay, you need to walk up the stairs right now. Like you need to do this. You need to do this. Like he's a little fucking kid. Like it's the kind of the tantrum thing. I try not to get mad at him when he has a tantrum because he's a toddler. But I see a lot of parents like, well, big kids don't do that. Well, he's not a fucking big kid yet.
So, okay, but at the same time, if you don't start, like, okay, so if you're, like, regardless of what terminology you use, whatever the phrasing is going to be, at some point or another, you have to kind of say, like, look, we don't throw tantrums because that's not how we act in civilized society. And you don't just develop that skill naturally. You kind of have to be taught it. That's the role of parenting.
I know, but I think
so. What I'm asking you, I guess, is why is the phrase "big kid" so problematic to you?
I think I think it is the phrasing because I think it's this idea that you're constantly pushing your kid to be older than they are and holding up being older as better. When I don't know, as I've gotten older, I've got my 30s. Like childhood goes by fast, and I feel like there is the risk of kind of taking that from them by propping up doing things older as better. And I feel like we already live in a society where kids are doing stuff younger. I should also point out like there's things that I want him to do that he's probably not ready for because it's stuff that I want to do.
Oh no, absolutely. Like I get that. Like yeah, it would be great if our kids would like throw and catch a ball, but no, they're not ready for that. I'm not gonna like here's a ball to throw. Like why aren't you throwing this more like Rafael Palmeiro? I don't know why that's the name that just came out. He's been retired for like a decade.
Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, there you go. Like whoever. But at the same time, I do think there's a reasonable expectation. Like, yeah, you kind of got to push your kids to develop because they're not going to do it on their own. And we live in a world where, I mean, first of all, like your kids have to develop. They do.
And I understand
you have to help them along because without that, they turn into the Wolfman.
Yeah.
They go,
howling at the moon.
Yeah, just whatever.
Or maybe they're like Mogwai from the Jungle Book, and they're totally just completely
what was
developed.
That name?
Mogwai.
I thought you said
no,
Mowgli. It's Mowgli. First of all, I was like Mogwai. I was like,
that's the
I think that's a character from Final Fantasy who's been married. That's so weird.
That's Gizmo is a Mogwai from Gremlins. I'm getting my movies mixed up.
Wow, you're going like
I went way deep.
Okay,
but I mean, listen, Mowgli was totally finally developed by having conversations with Baloo. I don't see the problem.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I say we all just aim to be Baloo.
That's true. I do want to be Baloo in real life. So I think it's the term. I really do. I think it's this push. As opposed to like, well, that's not how we act. Like we act. This is not how we're good. This is what a good boy does. Or this is how. I just really have issue with like having to prop up being older is better, especially when you're little. And I feel like because then you're constantly striving to be older, and does that cause our child to not enjoy the moment they're in? And also, does it cause us not to enjoy the moment they're in?
I think I think what you're suggesting is. I think it's a very reasonable. I think it's a very thought out concern. But at the same time, I think what you're doing is you're imposing your own concerns onto the well-being of your child. Because I think what you're really trying to say is, gosh, I'm so old and I wish I was young again. And no, kid, just stay young forever. You should be young because the world gets hard. But the reality is, at the age that they're at an age where they're like, they want to be developing. They want to be getting older. But at the same time, they're also not able to. And so I think what you're typically seeing is two things. I think you're seeing a kid who is trying to do more than they're physically capable of, and also a kid that's struggling to remain young because that youngness, that youth, allows them various freedoms and benefits that maybe they're not ready to get rid of.
Yeah.
And I think when people say, don't you want to be a big kid? It's like, I know at least in Thea's case, which is, we say this literally on a daily basis. We're saying this because like she's been at preschool since she was 6 weeks old. She has always been the little kid. Mm-hmm. And subsequently, one of the ways that she's motivated to do things is to be pointed, like to be reminded, like, look, the big kids at school, like your friends, the people who are 3-4 years older than you, they get to do this thing because they're the big kid. They have the skills, they have the abilities to do this. Don't you want to be like them? And the inherent answer is yes.
And I guess, and maybe I don't, and maybe this is why I wanted to talk about it. For some reason, like just hearing it tweaks something in me that really bugs me. And I don't like just that, like, I get it. So this thing, I get reaching developmental and you're trying to get them to develop these skills they need to develop. I put that on the table that I understand that. And I work with my son to do that. Right. Like I work with him to, like, especially linguistically, because that's something he catches. Right. Mm-hmm. But like the idea of like, well, don't you want to be a big kid? Don't you want to be? And I feel like I have a, like, that as the motivating factor to me, and using that language, it maybe you're right. It just triggers something in me that just feels uncomfortable, because I'm like, maybe it's because I feel like I'm not appreciating my kid in this moment, because I feel like we've talked about this. Like, I want my kid to be older because they were born when they were a baby, or I don't want to change diapers. Like for me, it's like, I don't want to change diapers anymore. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but like, so it's a push to be bigger. And I'm like, am I pushed to get them to do these things that are bigger by using that language? Am I not living in this moment of enjoying the state they're in?
See, that I feel is a strange concern. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way. I feel like what you're saying there is less a matter of concern that you're pushing the kid to do something, or rather that like these are the bad words, but more that like that you're pushing them to do something that they're not actually ready for, which isn't really what you're talking about at the same time. It sounds like what you're trying to say is like, look, I'm tired of being a dad at this age, so I want you to be older. And so it sounds like what your concern is actually is that you are trying to do something that they aren't ready for. Whereas the actual words, don't you want to be big, or big kids don't, or do, or whatever, that's not really the concern. The concern is the actions that you're trying to force them into.
But I guess I'm looking for maybe a correlation between that. As if that's how you use, that's the motivation you use. Are you doing that to your kid? Like, are you pushing them to do things not ready for because you want them to be bigger, right? It's not just like the motivation. You want them to be bigger. Do those things correlate? And I'm worried that, at least I've kind of backed off on using that phrasing, that for a while I think it was, right? Like, yeah, I'm using it as a motivator. I'm also using it because that's also what I want. And therefore I'm not enjoying this stage. And like, I know that different stages can be, listen, the throwing fit thing as a 2-year-old, which is going to happen and will probably maintain for 2 years. Cause that's everything I read. And like, it's a 2 to 3 year, like, hellion. But I only get this once, or maybe twice, but probably once. And am I pushing through it out of my own uncomfortability? And like, to me, language matters. The way you use language matters.
So I
don't know. Sorry. This has been like fucked in my head for like 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Like,
it sounds
it's really
like
deep rooted.
Well, I mean, look, we live in a society that rewards early development. Mm. So suggesting that people are doing the wrong thing for trying to get their kids to, I don't know, like use the potty early. Like as long as they're not like, oh my gosh, you don't get to, I don't know, like you don't get to get off this toilet until you've gone potty on this toilet. Mm. I don't see a problem with that. Like, hey, like, big kids use the potty and they say, no, I don't wanna, then okay, then they don't.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, if they're like, I don't want to use the potty, and you strap them to the potty, then okay, yes, we have a problem.
Yeah.
You're screwing up your kid. But if your kid is going to be in a preschool environment, if they're going to be in a daycare or something, like that daycare is going to try and help them along.
Yeah.
That's literally what you're sending them there for. So,
And that's the weird disconnect, right? Is I get that. I'm worried that by the push, are we hindering something more than helping? The push towards being a big kid and telling that and using that phrase, are we in the long run, could we be hindering them in some ways more than helping them? Is there different motivation tools that might be better?
how would you be hindering them?
Because if they're unable to do it, does it affect confidence? If you're like, well, the big kids do this and they try and then they can't, and then depending on how, because listen, I'm not saying that our daycare is not great about this, right? But I'm not there. So what if there's a chastise towards that, or if because they can't do it, like they can't do the thing the big kid does that have a negative effect? And does that affect their confidence and affect their development differently as opposed to using a different terminology or a different motivating factor?
Well, and see, and now you're talking about two different things.
Yeah.
Like, whereas one, you're talking about the verbiage behind like how you're trying to encourage kids to do a thing. Like now you're talking about the how you're going to punish a person for whatever, for failure.
But it wasn't even saying punishing, just the results of failure that happened, because I think failure is a good thing, and it's.
Well, but then I think there's a healthy, responsible way to mitigate failure, which is something along the lines of like, good job, you tried. Oh, you tried so hard to use that potty. Yay, here's a piece of candy for trying. Here's a new toy for trying. I mean, look, don't buy your kid a toy every time they sit on the pot.
Oh, fuck,
like,
that's exactly what I was going to do.
Like we do, like I know our school and our house has something that we call potty geekies, which is Indian for candy. It's like, you sit on the toilet, you get a piece of candy. If you use the toilet, you also get a sticker, and you get to put it on your sticker on the piece of paper that's right next to the toilet. It's like, oh, it's so exciting.
Yeah.
And it's a reward for trying. You're supposed to reward effort with kids, like with toddlers and such, rather than success, for the exact reason that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So as long as you're giving that reward, you're not sitting there going like, I can't believe you. How can you not poop? How can you not poop on this toilet? It's not like it's so much easier. Like, yeah, your kid's gonna be fine. Your kid's gonna be fine.
But I have this weird feeling. I have this feeling inside of me.
So I think what the real issue is it's not the kid's problem, it's your problem.
Yeah.
So then what is your issue with your child not being bigger that you feel like?
No, I don't need him to be bigger. I think that's the thing. Maybe that's why it bugs me. Is I look at my kid right now and I see like someone who is just on track. Like he's a normal kid, right? Like he's on track, and like. I just don't, and that's why I've tried to stop. Like, I just don't feel a need to use like be bigger to reach this development. Like, just that terminology of like be bigger. Like, I don't necessarily need you or want you to be bigger right now. Like, I want to enjoy just who you are. And like, I feel like there are other turns of phrases I can use, but I feel like that is the default phrase that like every parent goes to. Like, look at the big kids, look at the big kids, look at the big kids, be bigger, be bigger, be bigger. And I just like, it just bugs me. I'm like, fuck it. Let them be a kid. Let them be a kid.
I mean, I don't think anybody's saying like be bigger. I would really like it if you were a 55-year-old man right now.
I think some
I would
people
really
do, though.
appreciate it if you would drink some Ovaltine and just go
like,
read the Wall Street Journal.
You went from like 2 to like 87. I'm thinking like 2 to 5, man, 2 to 4.
I mean, okay, fine, but but really, like, yeah, everybody's still on the same page. Like, yeah, our kids are kids. I mean, let me rephrase that. Not everybody's on the same page.
I don't think they are. Yeah, I really
people.
don't.
And I'm not going to say there's crazy people. I'm going to say that there are people out there who are over ambitious and want their kids to be so far advanced that they're going to get into Harvard tomorrow. They're going to go from the preschool at the local Montessori all the way to Harvard tomorrow, and they're going to have a Nobel Prize by 8. And that ain't going to happen. And yes, that's kind of out there and overly ambitious.
But I see that a lot. That's my point. Like, that's what I see. And in every one of those carings, every one of those parents.
Do you actually see that, or are you imposing your own viewpoint onto them?
I might be, but it feels that way to me.
Okay, well, I mean, look, your feelings don't necessitate any importance, right? It's like what matters is what's actually happening.
But you don't see parents who are like, I mean, you take someone who's 1 or just under 1, and they're like pushing their kid to do this thing because they just want to do it, and like that's the thing. Well, like the big kids do it, or I want them to be bigger so they can do this. And like I don't know how beneficial that is. Like sticking your kid. I don't know a good example of this. Like the only thing I can think of is like a swing, right? Like My kid did not like a swing, and so I didn't push him to like the fucking swing. He does now, but I wonder.
So let's talk about the swing.
Yeah, because I can't think of anything else.
Let's go through a stupid scenario with a swing, okay? And let's just look at it from a practical perspective. So I'm going to use fictitious child A. Hi, Fick. So Fick is
good name for fictitious child A.
You're welcome.
I like that.
It's important that we always point out our successes on this show.
Fick A.
So Fick is being taken to the playground.
What color hair does Fick have?
Blonde. He's blonde.
He's a blonde kid.
He's very clearly like the Aryan child. He's because Fick is going to be a little fickle. So
yeah, okay, fair.
So obviously the fickle child needs to have a little bit of whatever.
Aryan master race.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So Fick is being taken to the swings. It's like, okay, we have the child swings that have like the little crotch nibbit, whatever you want to call it, like the little bucket seat. I like the bucket seat.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
And so the parent picks up Fick and they're getting ready to put him in. The Fick goes, no, they're crying all the crap that I probably shouldn't do into the microphone because that's evil.
Wasn't too bad.
And the parent says, fine, I'm going to let you go. And he runs off and never comes back to the playground. Okay, so there's no big deal here, right? The kid just doesn't swing. He's not a swing person. He's not going to be a swinger. On the other hand, you're instilling a sense of anxiety, that anxiety is acceptable. That like, okay, no, you should be anxious about things, and that's okay. You should feel scared of this completely innocuous thing. On the other hand, maybe you put the child in and say, okay, here's a little swing. Do you like the swing? Okay, nope, you don't like it. Crying. Okay, we'll take you out, and then we'll try again next time. And if you don't like it and you continue to not like it, we're not going to continue doing this, Fick, because Fick, you clearly are saying you don't like swinging based upon a well educated determination here. Whatever. Now let's great. Okay, good. That is a good solid thing. You're now saying like, okay, you're not going to be allowed to be overly anxious based upon unprecedented fears. You're going to instead have to experience this thing and then make a determination off of experience whether or not you like a thing. And then we will absolutely support you in whatever decision you make. I feel like that is a perfectly reasonable approach to take.
So I think this actually is a good example. So this is where I think you're right, because that's how Miles was. He didn't like the swing, so we tried it little by little, and now he does, right? It took a long time, and now he likes it. My thing is, once that kid understands using the big kids like swings as a guilt to get your kid into the swing, that bugs the shit out of me. And that's what I see, or at least what I perceive to see and hear.
Okay, so let's continue this example down the line then to get to perhaps a more applicable point that you're trying to think of. So Fick has decided he likes the swing. He likes the little bucket swing. He swings in the bucket swing, and Fick is ficking in the fictional bucket swing.
Good alliteration.
Thank you. It's really just the same thing over and over again.
But it still works.
Well, now Fick is getting a little bit older, and we decide, well, Fick, it's time for you to use the big kid swing, which is what we would call a swing.
Yeah. The normal swing.
The normal swing. So, okay, now you say, okay, Fick, it's time, like, you need to try and use this swing. And Fick says, no, I like my bucket swing. At what age do you say, well, I'm sorry, you have to use the regular swing?
I don't have an answer to that because I don't know size, weight, blah, blah, blah. But I know what I'm...
Well, Fick is fictional, so we can in fact choose his size and weight.
Fictional.
This is entirely
Fick is
fictional.
4 years old and 135 pounds. At that point, he probably needs to
Holy crap, this is a huge kid. This kid needs some kind of medication.
Fick is a beast, man.
We're just going to chop him off at the knees here.
Fick is a beast. Jinx. So here's the thing. Yeah, then I might be like, you're too big for the swing, or you don't fit in it, as opposed to, well, all the big kids use that swing, because you're literally guilting your kid and shaming them into using the big kid swing then, to me.
Okay.
And I don't think that's right.
I mean,
why can't there be another way to do it?
Why is guilt such a bad thing? Why is guilt such a bad tool?
Aren't we just talking about to me, when you make me feel guilty as someone who feels guilt for shit they don't need to feel guilt for,
Sure.
Because I think that it might have been utilized and I don't realize it. it's shame. You teach them like feel guilty, feel shame for this because you can't do that. The other kids can do it. It just I feel like you are setting a really bad precedent for your kid, like the anxiety thing. Like so now you're going to use guilt to make someone feel guilty for something that's innocuous and doesn't actually matter.
All right. Well, hold on a second. I'm gonna let me dig around here. All right. All right, so I just pulled out the good old-fashioned parenting toolbox.
You mean your laptop?
Yeah, I have a list
you actually need to get a sound effects for
that are in here. It's the old parenting toolbox here, and I have a lot of different tools in here. Mm-hmm. I see guilt, I see aggression, I see violence, I see demands, I see insistence, I see pressure, I see, I don't know, any number of words that are whatever. I have encouragement, which is probably the one I should have started with, right? That's probably the best one to start with.
That's the positive parenting thing.
Arguably the good one. Yeah. It's the good one. Well, I guess what I would ask, I mean, I'm not saying everything should be guilt, but what's wrong with like a little bit of guilt in there? Like, it would make me really, really sad if you started doing crack, Johnny. I'm sorry, we're using Fick. It would make me really, really sad, Fick, if you started doing crack next week. Gosh, it would be really nice if you don't come home drunk at 4 a.m. in the morning during high school, Fick.
So why not be aggressive about it?
Okay, because that's illegal.
And but just yelling at your kid, which I think that you and I have had conversations that I'm trying not to do in less extreme circumstances. And I don't think you want to do because X, Y, and Z and the ramifications of that. Don't you think there's ramifications for at a 4-year-old being like, you should feel guilty for not wanting to use this object? Or when there could be another tool in that laptop toolbox you popped out to handle this situation.
So I would suggest that, well, number one, I would say that guilt is probably not on the same level as aggression.
That's a different conversation, but
well, I mean, it's actually literally the conversation we're having right now. But
okay.
On the other, but
I'm also Fick is 130 pounds of just pure muscle.
I mean, Fick would totally take me out. Yeah. I'm just saying. But also, I also think there's varying levels here, right? Like, there's saying, like, you're going to guilt your child by saying, like, gosh, those big kids over there, don't they look like they're having fun? That's also just encouragement. Like, that's the different style of encouragement. It's not saying, like, hey, if you do this, I'm going to be disappointed and I'm sad, and your other kids are going to get ice cream and you're not, and we're all going to be really sad and mopey. Like saying, hey, those big kids over there are going to, those kids are enjoying it. Don't you want to be big like them? That's also saying, like, look how happy they are. You'll be happy too if you can do this. Like, why don't you give it a shot?
You don't think there's going to be detrimental things in that?
There's going to be detrimental things in everything you say. I know,
but I'm just saying, like, you're pointing this, like, that's just my point. Like, why use that when you could say, well, let's try this. This may be fun. Or why don't you try this? As opposed to like, well, look at they're having fun. Don't you want to have fun? Oh, you're not going to have fun unless you do that. Let's be big. Like, listen, maybe 130-pound Fick just is not ready to swing in the regular pound swing yet.
I really want to know more about Fick. I do. How did he get to 130 pounds at 4 years old?
He's fucking ripped, man.
He is
jacked.
What are his fictional parents? What's Big Fick feeding this guy?
If I could draw, I would totally draw a picture of
It's easy. Just draw a massive circle with 2 stubby legs on the bottom. No, I think we have Fick.
What if he's just all muscle?
All muscle. He's been doing burpees all day.
Exactly. Some pull-ups, some Fick pull-ups.
Fick can actually deadlift 1,000 pounds. It's weird.
Throws that shit up. He looked kind of like the Hulk. Maybe it's because I see that to be a very detrimental road where you start using it for everything and basically using guilt as your power tool when you could encourage them or show other examples for it. And it feels like you're shaming your kid. It really feels like you're shaming your kid into doing something.
And the more like we talk about, the more I hear it while we're discussing. And like, yeah, I think like you don't want to say it for everything, but at the same time, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. Of like, hey, once in a while, like, like, don't you want to be bigger? Like, don't you want to grow up? Don't you want to develop? Don't you want to age?
So,
but you can't say like, don't you want to be like, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to develop at a proper rate, just like the hierarchy of needs would suggest?
That's totally how you're going to talk to Thea.
I do try to, but it turns out, just like I said there, I'm using the wrong theory of psychology in the wrong spot.
So here's the thing. I think you're right in terms of like there can be a place for. I think because let's be clear. I think in our toolbox of parenting, be that I'll say talking sternly to your kid or yelling, whatever term you want to use, because your kid's going to think any stern talk is yelling.
Well, sure.
There's a time and a place where all of those tools will be utilized. What I'm talking about is us getting in the habit of always using the guilt big kid thing as like our go-to like thing. And right now, I think a lot of us do.
I also think so.
And then Fick will punch you in the face because 130 pounds of muscle.
I mean, he's going to destroy me. He's going to like, Fick is going to join wrestling and just like put me into a knot.
I was like, do you think Fick's a gymnast?
At 4 years old? Yeah,
Maybe
probably he is.
that
Yeah, I think that might be a good
He can rock those
I
fucking
guess that
rings,
is
man.
about the age that gymnastics start, right?
He's rocking those rings, smoking a cigarette because he just went down a dark road.
So I will say, I think part of the reason why people say, don't you want to be a big kid, is because it's the vocabulary that your 2-year-old has.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at school, like a 2-year-old has a pretty limited vocabulary. Like I love my daughter. She knows a lot of words. She's really good with language.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like she's like we're walking around and saying like, well, don't you want to be like the kids who are on the bicycles over on the bicycle trail? Like you can't say that. She doesn't get it. Don't you want to be able to do this thing that's actually for a little bit of an older age, but gosh, you really seem to enjoy this type of stuff. And as an adult who understands that one thing is like another thing and you don't, the easier way of saying this is, see those big kids? Don't you want to be like the big kids? Because I think you're going to enjoy it. And I'm trying to encourage you to find something that you want to enjoy because you're a toddler and you don't know always like one thing is like another thing. You know, hey, I like this thing. I'm going to kind of stagnate on this thing. And subsequently, it's kind of a shorthand for don't you want to try this other thing because big.
Yeah. And I guess I'm just saying, is there other shorthand we could use?
So what is it?
I don't know. That's my question. That's what me as a parent right now is trying to figure out. Is there, because I think it can lead me as a parent down a path of parenting I don't necessarily agree with or want to do. So I'm trying to think, is there other terms or other ways I can accomplish the same thing without drawing comparison and essentially maybe guilting my kid into things? Because I don't want to do that.
I mean, I suppose I can see a slippery slope argument to be made, but at the same time, I'm not sure I want to prescribe to a slippery slope fallacy around the term big kids.
Yep.
Like I acknowledge that if you're trying to get your kid to do everything that you want them to do just because you want them to be at a place and you're using like be like the big kids as the excuse, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a dick. Like, I think that's more of the rule here is don't be a dick and use this as your tool. But I do think there's a reasonable, like, I want you to try a thing because I think you're going to like it. And so I'm going to encourage you by reminding you, like, look, the other big kids are doing it like this. So don't you want to be like the big kids that you look up to at school? And look, if you don't like it, cool. Yeah, you tried, whatever. All right, cool. Let's go play on the climbing wall. Fick's 150 pounds. He's probably like
crushed that climbing wall.
Yeah, no, he was up there. He did it with like 2 hands.
Yeah, he did like the mountain climb swing where you do it with like no legs.
Don't you want to play on the Ninja Warrior set?
Yeah,
that's
where Fick thrives.
Yeah, no, he's actually climbing the wall. He hit 3 buzzers last week.
He did.
Yeah. Oh my god,
Fick.
I have been obsessed with that. That's a whole other story for
Your Ninja Warrior obsession.
I'm going to use that for my recommendation next week. No, I'm going to use that this week because I had to get that in.
There you go.
Otherwise, you're going to steal that crap from me.
Probably. Civics 101. I'll steal that crap.
So, I don't know. That's where I stand, I think.
Yeah. No, and listen, it is, for me, it's a road that I'm wrestling with in my head because it's just kind of come into my head, right?
Sure.
And so I'm dealing with it too, but that's a slippery slope of it. And yeah, you know.
Can you get that thing off the table so it stops vibrating everything? It's vibrating the microphones though. You can see
It's my toolbox.
Well, yeah, but you can see the vibrations on the graph over there.
Can you please leave this in? It's my toolbox. I actually think that in retrospect, you need a toolbox sound effect, and you also need a sound effect of Thea going, "Daddy, know that I can hit every time I want to," just to be like, Daddy, no.
Every time I'm being a little bit too pretentious.
Yeah,
Daddy,
just
no.
Daddy, no. I think that's a really good
I
idea.
could probably find that.
Okay.
We would need a soundboard though for you to just
It's
beep.
true. I'll record a Baby Sharky one for you. Baby Sharky?
What am I going to use that for?
When I jump the shark. Baby
There
Sharky.
you go.
Anyway.
All right.
That's a
Well,
good
I don't
shit.
know why you just picked up the mouse.
Baby Sharky. Daddy, no.
Daddy, no. Anyway, with that being said, I think we are on to emails. If you have an email for us, you can send it to emails@twodumbdads.com. That's emails@2dumbdads.com. We don't actually have any emails this week, but we do have a little bit of good old-fashioned post mail.
Woo!
And as you might expect, it came from everybody's favorite listener, Grandma Jenny.
How'd I know?
She sent us a few newspaper clippings from her local newspaper with some ideas for future episodes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Grandma Jenny.
I'm not going to say what they are yet because I would like to use them and have them be a surprise. But I want to say thank you for the ideas and let you know that we're gonna include them in a later time.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, they're definitely for like a little bit older kids, so we might have a little bit of time before they start getting in. But we're going to use them because
Cool.
they're things I wanted to talk about anyway.
Awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So, if you want to have if you have some ideas for future topics, send them to emails at the number 2dumbdads.com, and we'll give them a look, and we'll hopefully use them in a future episode.
Oh, yeah.
But with that being said, we are going to move into Nick's Baktastic Ballyhoo. Nick, what have you been baking?
So I've been working on bagels still.
Bagels?
Bagels. Beagles.
Sweet bagels?
No, just normal ones. Old fashioned.
Stupid bagels.
I know. I gotta get it right. So I got the rise I wanted. They're never gonna rise like a yeast bagel would because they're sourdough, which is still yeast, but like traditional active rise yeast. That's just
So
not.
why bother? Why not just use yeast?
Because it's a better flavor with the
We
sourdough.
live in New York. I mean, we live in the East Coast where bagels are abundant. Why wouldn't you make a beautiful, glorious bagel with our perfect bagel water?
Because the water helps, but because I think the sourdough gives it a better flavor than the store bought bagel you're buying.
I don't know. My bagel was warm. I haven't had a warm bagel from you yet.
I meant to bring them over and I forgot.
See?
But I've gotten them to where they're rising. I think the amount that they're supposed to rise. I troubleshot that.
Cool.
I'm just having trouble shaping them, like getting them shaped. So I've really been making them a lot just to.
Oh,
shape
I got
them.
this. It's a circle. It's a circle
but
with a hole in the middle.
You got to but getting that hole in the middle is harder than you think it is.
I could do it. You roll it and then you wrap it and then it's a bagel.
But then you got to get that dough to stick, and you either got to wrap it and then you get a thicker side. It just doesn't look uniform. It's a thing. There's a way to shape bagels.
I don't know. I made a pretzel before and it worked.
This is not a pretzel, Chris.
It's a bagel.
It's a bagel. It's different.
I'm sorry. I'm clearly
It's
confused.
different. I'm also working on a new recipe. I'm working on a new thing that I'm gonna make. I'm gonna try to make strawberry basil scones especially strawberry rosemary basil scones with the rosemary infused into the butter.
I'm sorry. I need a ruling. Is that bread?
No,
Does a scone count as bread?
it's a quick bread.
I'm sorry. The judges are saying that doesn't count as
By
bread.
definition, it's a biscuit. Actually,
See, that's a biscuit. That's not a bread.
it's still in the bread family. It's quick bread.
Okay, fine.
Fine. You don't get any scones. I'll give them to your wife and your kid.
Can I encroach on Nick's Baktastic Ballyhoo?
Yeah.
So I've been baking too.
Bacon cookies.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I bake.
Okay.
Thea and I. No, actually, I made them for Thea. I made her. So we have. I have a family recipe for chocolate chip cookies that is well known throughout the country. It is. Everybody loves them. I make them for work every year. I make them for everybody.
Except for your
all the
wife,
time.
who doesn't like them in their original form.
Except that my wife doesn't like coconut. That's a whole other story. Actually, it's not, because that's kind of where this is going. So,
Okay. So it's
because
not
my
everybody.
daughter has had my family recipe so many times, I decided to make my wife's family recipe this time. It's like, I want Thea to like understand, like, look, there's two different recipes for the families, and like, this is what mommy's family made. This is what, of course, she's too young to understand any of this. But
This is
besides
what the
point.
big kids understand is recipes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, see, Thea, if you're a big kid, you can understand recipes. But anyway,
Make
so
me some
I
cookies.
made my wife's family recipe, which is just the Toll House cookie recipe.
Listen, sometimes that shit's good.
Like, I pulled it out of her family cookbook, and the card said
Toll House
House cookies. I was just like, fuck it. This is her family recipe. Like, this is what her family did. I want this to be a thing. So my thought was like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, my wife was in the mood. And so I was like, she'll have some cookies and these will be cookies she can have. And Thea's been wanting cookies. And so I promised her that she could have a cookie. And then she can take these cookies to school and awesome. Like, that'll be great. So I made the cookies. I had, I did the chocolate chips. I did the nuts. I did everything. And then I got home and Erin had a cookie and she was like, oh, this is delicious. Like, oh yeah. And I figured like this way we don't have them sitting around the house. She can just take them to school and it'll be a nice thing that she like we did for her school kids. Like, oh yeah, we can't take these to school. There's nuts in these. What? So I mentioned this to some students at my class who have kids, and they said, "Oh yeah, no, you can't send things to schools anymore. Like if it like you can't make it if it's homemade, you can't send it to school."
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can do nothing. Like apparently, like of course, Erin's school can because it's private, and they like, very specifically say like, yes, we are going to allow this. But apparently, at a normal school nowadays, you are not allowed to send anything that is homemade because it doesn't have a list of ingredients, and there's no.
And there could be stuff made with
who knows what that can make kids sick. And I was just like, oh my God, what has the world come to that kids don't get treats?
I don't think that's true in every state, though. So in my Big-tastic Ballyhoo research, there's things called cottage laws. Cottage laws are basically when you could make something in your kitchen and sell it at a farmer's market. In New Jersey and New York, you cannot do that for that reason. Because it needs to be made in a commercial kitchen where it's sterilized. In your home kitchen, you can clean it, but it's made with nuts and whatever. Some states, though, if you make it and you put the ingredients you use and say it was made in home kitchen, you can bake it or sell it. So I wonder if you could still bring it to schools.
I'm sure this is more of a school to schools issue. But my understanding is the issue is all around like tree allergy, nuts allergies, flour allergies, gluten intolerance, all that crap that like everybody is anxious about. Yeah. Whereas when we were kids, it was just like, hey, does this have nuts in it? Yeah, no, I can't have that. Sorry. Now it is like, well, if that kid really wants it and they don't think about it and they have a bite of it, the school could get sued. And so we're just not going to allow anything. Which like, look, politically I get, but at the same time, fuck you. Let my kid have a cookie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my encroaching on Nick's Big-tastic Ballyhoo.
Chris's Big-tastic Ballyha.
Yes, I will take that. This is my Ballyha. My Ballyha. I can make cookies.
You do make some baller cookies.
All right. Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I do. So there's a new episode of The Great British Baking Show running on PBS currently, and I love it. I love the show in general. It's also on Netflix. I've rewatched all 4 seasons multiple times. It is one of my favorite television shows, and this is why. They compete for no money. They compete just for a cake thing that says they're the greatest baker in Britain. So everyone, for the most part, is really nice to each other. They make really cool shit. There's usually you learn a little bit about how to bake different things, and it is just a nice, easy, fun, stress-free watch. And there's a new season of it, and I highly recommend the new season or just going on Netflix and watching the show. I think it is awesome.
They're so polite.
It's great.
Oh gosh, I don't think your souffle is going to rise today.
Listen, when someone drops something and the first thing you do is like, how can I help you? Like, immediately, like, they leave their bake to go help them. I'm like, you know what? That's because there's no money on the line.
The judges come around like, oh, it looks like you dropped it. That's so unfortunate.
That did happen.
Gosh, you did such a good job.
So I'm going to do a quick spoiler because this literally happened. There was an incident in one of the episodes where...
I'll give a spoiler too. They baked a thing.
No, well, yes. That someone had an accident and so...
It was a cake.
No, they cut their finger, but like real bad.
Sure.
But because they couldn't finish the competition, they didn't eliminate anyone because they said it wouldn't be fair. Come on. That's awesome.
Instead, they eliminated everybody the following week.
Yeah, 2 people the following week. But you know what? They were like, you know what? We have to keep it fair this week, and no one has to go home. And it was great, and it filled me with happiness and joy.
That guy clearly would have been the worst because he lost a finger. Yeah. I'm sorry. If you lose a finger, I feel like maybe you did the worst job that week.
No, he just had some problems. Listen, that's why you are American, and you don't appreciate the Great British Baking Show.
You are very right.
It's so good. So
look, it's a competition show. If you're competing and you cut off a finger, yeah, I'm sorry, you lose.
Listen, it's so good. You should go watch it. That's American.
It's kind of like saying if you're cooking and you like suddenly like accidentally like pee in the steak on the steak or something. It's like, yeah, I'm sorry, you peed on the steak, you lose.
Listen, that's sometimes how shit like gets made. People do weird shit like that. And they're like, man, this pea steak is good.
I know there's coffee that monkeys poop out.
And then you drink it. And it's really expensive.
You pick it and then you drink it, and it's amazing. I don't know. I've never had it, but I kind of want it.
It's because it's too expensive for our blood. What's your recommendation?
Shoot, I had a whole other recommendation that I now have to back off of and use the one that I don't remember. What was the thing I was going to recommend afterwards?
Warrior.
Oh, Ninja Warrior. Yeah, Ninja Warrior. So for the record, this is something I would love to watch with my daughter, but we haven't. So I'm going to recommend that I show this to my daughter, but I'm also going to recommend that everybody watch it because it is the most positive show in the world. Look, if you don't know what Ninja Warrior is, seriously, how do you not know what Ninja Warrior is?
Just go online.
But if you don't know what Ninja Warrior is the thing that made Steffi Graf famous. It's the show where like people compete in ninja activities, and there's like a skill. Like, so, okay, so you're gonna like run across these like slightly sloped steps. And then you're going to jump onto a punching bag and swing 50 feet. And then when it like hits a ledge, you're going to swing on and jump onto another ledge. And then there's going to be a thing where like it's a balance thing where there's like a balance beam where everything spins and you're going to fall flat on your face.
Sounds like the physical version of what I just recommended. You were making fun of mine. Spoiler, people do physical stuff.
Yeah. And just like you said, it is so positive.
It is. It's nice.
Everybody's rooting for you. But my favorite is when there's people who are very clearly not supposed to be on that show. Because it's
you
always
just went to the dark place.
You can always tell when there's like, this person's on there because they have a good story or they have a good personality. Like they have 5 people who are like maybe going to legitimately finish this thing and like actually compete in the final one, but they got to fill like an entire hour slot worth of competition. And so they bring out people who are like, well, I'm a bus driver.
Bring in the B team. Bring in the B team.
And I eat 12 pancakes a day. And look at me, I can dress up as a dinosaur. And so they like they do this like incredibly challenging obstacle course dressed as a dinosaur.
That's awesome.
And of course they like slip because they're wearing a freaking fuzzy costume or something. And it's the best because I'm like, yeah, you don't deserve to be on this course, man. Like I could have done that. I could have done that.
The bad part is I watch that show and I'm like, I can do that. I know I can't.
No,
but
you can't.
I go,
you can't.
I'm like, I could do the bar thingy. I could do some of it. I could get through some of it.
I could maybe make it past the first obstacle.
I can do a lot. I can do a lot of body weight stuff. I think I would feel and they have to do the bar jump thing.
Couldn't do it.
That thing that would get me.
I usually so here's the thing. I think I could probably actually do the first obstacle where it's just like the little slopes and you're jumping from side to side and then you reach up. Like I might be able to actually do that, but I secretly think those are much wider apart than you think they are. And then I'm always like, just like you, I'm always like, I bet I could also pass the second obstacle because it's usually something like, okay, you have to jump, and you have to catch a rope, and it's going to eventually like you're gonna swing down, and then it's gonna like catch, and then it's gonna swing you over, and if you don't do it at just the right time, you fail. I'm like, you know what? I'm naturally athletic enough. I bet I could probably do that.
I'm little and nimble.
I couldn't actually do that though, because the thing I always forget is like, I probably couldn't actually like jump up high enough just to reach the simple act of getting onto the obstacle. I don't think I'm in shape enough to just get onto the obstacle.
You know what else you forget that I realized from like doing stuff with my niece and nephew is when you swing on a rope, it's way harder when you're older because you have more weight and that weight pulls you down.
Yeah. I'm fat. I'm also tall. So I'm fat and I have a lot of bone. I don't have any muscle. I have fat. But I have a lot of bone, which is heavy. And that bone would weigh me down.
See, that's where I would look out because like my little tiny self is more...
You have bird bones. You're hollow.
I know. I'm more set for that kind. Like, listen, if you're a short person, if you're listening and you're like a younger short person, like athletics go more towards you when you get older because then you can do the weird shit because you're little and you don't have a bunch of weight.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We should all get younger as we age.
Yeah, you just listen. I'm going to tell my son and be like, listen, you're going to be a super athlete when you're like 25 and not in high school sports anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm starting Thea early. I'm like, honey, look, here's the secret. Don't get older. Just don't get old. Your goal is to get younger every day. So she's actually absorbed this and she started saying goo goo gaga again. She's really taking it to heart.
Daddy,
she's
no.
Trying to,
Daddy, no. Daddy, no.
You're getting older. No.
Baby Sharky.
No.
Baby Sharky.
If you'd like to find us, you can find me at Chris Mossigan on Twitter. You can find us on our website at twodumbdads.com. Nick, where can we find you?
You can find me at nwestermeyer on Twitter and at nwestermeyer on Instagram. You can also find us at the 2, that's the number 2, Dumb Dads Facebook group, and also our Facebook page. You can also find us on Twitter at 2_dumb. _dads.
And of course, please please find us on iTunes and subscribe.
Rate and review that shit.
Rate and review. Yeah, do all the things. Share it. Share everything. Share. If you see a thing, please share it.
Sharing's caring.
We would really appreciate it if you could help us out in any way you can. Tell a friend. Tell us. Just like, hey, two dumb dads, and then walk away. Just ghost them. Just like walk up to a random person on the street, like two dumb dads, and then ghost out on them. Like,
I thought that's when you walked by and farted next to somebody.
No, that's crop dusting.
Oh, I love doing that.
Oh. That's the worst. Please do not crop dust a person after you say two dumb dads.
Two dumb dads.
I mean, that's probably canonically the most two dumb dads you can be.
Oh, man. Please crop dust somebody tomorrow.
Until next time, though, be well.